Previously, Sejun harvested the blue cherry tomato and was very surprised to see its appearance, but the window message suddenly popped up where the message asked to present the cherry tomato to the tower manager, and the refusal will result in death. Hello, I am back again. Sorry for not uploading the past month as I was sick, but anyway, we will start with part 2 of the story. Sejun is shocked when he reads that the penalty for refusing the quest is death. In front of him, the window was open, and Sejun could still not believe that something so extreme was happening. He accuses the admin of blackmailing him and using the name of a quest to justify his actions. Sejun tells the admin that if he wants it, he should ask for it properly.
Sure.
If he played dirty games like this and made it look like he was giving Sejun options, that would not be good. Sejun is a bit relieved after venting his anger, but he says that how worthless was his life to the admin if it would kill him just for not giving up one tomato. But even then, the penalty of death cannot make him any braver. He gives up and offers the blue tomato to the administrator, who asks to spare his life. The tomato in Sejun's hands vanishes, and he receives the message that he has completed the quest. The next window has the quest reward, and Sejun is excited to get the reward. He knew it was a job-related skill, but since he was focusing solely on the death penalty, he forgot about it for a moment. Sejun flatters the tower manager and calls him generous. Then he decides to check what kind of skill he has and opens the quest reward. The reward is the skill sowing at level 1. It slightly increases the probability of germination when a seed is planted. Sejun does not understand how to react, but he sure is disappointed. But then he consoles himself by saying that since his job was as a tower farmer, he could not expect much from the reward anyway. He goes to the dark parts of the cave with a torch, and a fish jumps out towards the flame. Sejun uses a club made of green onion stems and leaves to hit it towards the land. The fish dies, and Sejun learns that it was a piranha. He had killed a piranha, and the information window tells him that he got 2 experience points for it. This was the 5th fish Sejun had caught, and with that, he now had 10 experience points. After awakening as a farmer, Sejun was able to collect experience points, and he caught several piranhas every day for several days and reached level 2. He wants to catch more of them, but it is clearly a bad idea. He thinks he should not kill a living thing without reason. Besides, he got valuable protein from the fish. If he killed all of them and their population went extinct, he would not be able to eat them again. Sejun roasts the fish and calls his friends to eat, and the baby rabbits are much more hungry than their parents. They run towards Sejun, who was their human uncle, and he gives them fish and onion leaves. They had grown a little and started eating a lot more compared to before. Sejun asked them to leave some food for their mom and dad as well. There was another benefit Sejun got from awakening. He could get information about the rabbits. He gives them their share, and the rabbits happily take it. They were farmer white rabbits, and Sejun had a few ideas about how they ended up with him. They were a type of monster he had never heard of outside the tower. Based on their names, Sejun realizes that they specialize in farming and not fighting. He thinks that this must be the reason they were not known. The rabbits start flirting as they eat, and as Sejun watches them, he wonders what happened to them. That he assumes that they must have lost their farms, and after wandering for some time, they found this cave in him. He wants to know if the rabbits have a hometown to return to, but he can't understand them, and neither can they understand him beyond basic farming terminology. Sejun tells this to the husband rabbit, saying that he wishes they could understand each other, but he does not understand human speech either and is confused. But now that they are done eating, Sejun says that they should head back to the farm. Today is an important day for all of them, and the husband rabbit is also excited. They reach the farm to find the cherry tomatoes perfectly ripe. Sejun is amazed to see them. They were even better than the tomatoes he brought with him. The rabbits are also pleased to see the red tomato fruits. Sejun gets sentimental as he says that now is the time to harvest them. They had worked so hard to grow them. They had harvested one after the blue moon, but it didn't count. Sejun is nervous as he goes to harvest the first tomato. His hand is trembling, and the rabbits are watching him anxiously too, but Sejun picks up a fruit which easily separates from the branch. He exclaims that this was his first cherry tomato, and it had ripened so well. 8 tomatoes bring more good news with them. Sejun sees information windows telling him that he had harvested a ripe magical cherry tomato, and he would receive 10 experience points for it. Sejun is surprised to learn that these tomatoes were also magical, just like the blue tomato. He reads their information and finds that when consumed, this tomato decomposes 10 grams of fat and increases 0 on them for 10 minutes. The MPSD effect could be stacked up to 10 times, and the maximum time limit for that would be 1 hour. Below this information is Sejun's name as the cultivator of the tomato, and it is also mentioned that it was an EGU grade item whose shelf life was 30 days. Sijin is impressed that even though the effect of one tomato was quite small, if 10 of them were eaten together, they could boost MP by 1. He wonders if other tomatoes are also the same and sets out to harvest them. He harvests the tomato, and it is also a ripe magical cherry tomato, as is the next one after that. But then he harvests an unripe magical cherry tomato and only gets 7 experience points for it. Sijin is taken aback that he made a mistake, but he still got 7 experience points. And when he harvested unripe fruit, it was not an item anymore. It was back to being a normal tomato. Sijin now understands that he must take care to harvest only ripe fruits to get them as an item. That is harder than he thinks, but Sijin keeps it up and his level increases. He is already level 4, and Sijin thinks he has harvested enough crops for the day. He takes a tomato and says that he should have a taste, but the rabbits are stomping their feet aggressively, and Sijin looks at them. They are angry, and he apologizes. Sijin offers the tomatoes to them and had achieved this together, so they should reap the rewards together too. But the husband rabbit is furious even as he picks up a tomato. Sijin says that they should celebrate the successful harvest and everyone should eat. And when Sijin eats the tomato, his mind is blown. He thinks that he is lying on soft green grass looking up at the clear night sky. And then suddenly a flare flies into the sky and explodes a firework. Sejin gets up and looks at it with his mouth open. The fresh scent of grass and the sweet and sour taste of the tomato mix with that scent. Sijin feels that this feeling is similar to the fireworks in the middle of a summer festival. Sijin sheds a tear of joy as he remembers the summer and feels it in the tomato. The wife rabbit asks her husband if he knew what Sijin was saying, and he has no idea. The rabbits take the remaining tomatoes and store them in makeshift storage facility. They cover the tomatoes with onion leaves, and Sejin is lying down and watching them. He thinks that the rabbit kids are now big enough to help their parents. He is ready to sleep on mattresses and with an eye mask, both made of onion leaves. Sijin says that they were indeed the children of farmers' rabbits. Sijin yawns and says that he should go to sleep now as he is feeling sleepy. And he is sure that when he wakes up tomorrow, another wonderful day will greet him. Sijin lays down and immediately begins to snore, but then a quest is issued for him. He must offer 100 magical cherry tomatoes to the tower manager. The reward was a job-related skill, and the penalty was the same as before death. But Sejin is really asleep and does not notice the window, but then it suddenly starts ringing loudly like an alarm, and Sejin is forcibly woken up. He offers 100 tomatoes to the manager in frustration, and the manager is satisfied. He gives Sejin the reward for the quest. Sejin says that the manager was forcing him to do things, and he better give him something more useful this time. As he opens the quest reward, Sejin finds that he has received the skill harvest at level 1. It enabled him to obtain harvested crops in optimum condition, even if they were slightly overripe or underripe. Sijin is disappointed and asks why he needs a harvesting skill. That is what he thought initially, but it was much more useful than the previous skill. Sijin admits to this as he harvests tomatoes with his husband's rabbit. Whenever you harvest slightly overripe or underripe tomatoes, an effect activates and they are perfected to their optimum condition. As he does that, the proficiency of the harvest skill increases along with Sijin's experience points. He says that since he did not have to wait for the cherry tomatoes to ripen, it was easier and faster for him. They have finished harvesting, and Sijin tells the husband rabbit that they should take the rest of the harvest home. But just then he gets another quest. Sejin was also anticipating it, but he was not expecting the quest to have no reward. Sijin calls the manager a thief for giving no reward, but since his last reward helped him significantly, Sijin can give him at least that much. As he offered the tomatoes to the manager, the husband was shown to be a good man. Shocked, but Sijin did not know that he was entering a vicious cycle. The manager issued the quests again and again, but they kept increasing in demand. It was getting greedier without an end in sight. The required number of tomatoes keeps on increasing, and finally the manager reaches new heights of shamelessness. The new quest is triggered, and Sijin has to offer 500 tomatoes to the manager for no reward, and yet the penalty for refusing is death. Sijin is really flipped now, and he clearly refuses to comply, and the manager of the tower is surprised. This was yet another entry in Sijin's diary about getting lost in the tower. This was the first time he stood up to the greedy manager. But after calmly refusing, Sijin throws a tantrum. He says that the manager had already taken hundreds of tomatoes he needed to eat too, and so did the rabbits. The tower manager replies that it was the farmer's problem and not his. He tells Sijin to stop protesting and give him the cherry tomatoes. But this irritates Sijin even more. He says that he worked hard for days and suffered a lot to harvest those tomatoes. The tower master still insists that Sijin's job was as simple as sowing the seeds. It asks him not to overreact over something that is not a big deal. And this is where the tower manager crosses the line. Sijin says that he is not giving anything to the manager because he doesn't want to. The tower manager is flustered, but Sijin ignores his messages. He keeps on harvesting onions as the manager asks if he really wants to refuse. Says that Sejun could die, but the latter is busy cooking fish. And even when it emphasizes death, Sejun replies that he was not going to give his crops to someone who didn't value his hard work. But the tower manager says that it was Sejun's job. And since the manager was his superior, he should listen to his orders. Sejun replies that this was the reason he was not giving the tomatoes. The manager forcibly made him do this and did not even appreciate his efforts. Moreover, the compensation for the exploitation was also too low, and since it was the manager of the tower, this proved that it was a bad employer. Sejun's words and the hurt in his eyes shocked the tower manager. I did not realize this before and tried to apologize, but Sejun is eating the tomatoes while teasing them, and the manager gets angry. It tells Sejun that it was angry because he ate the tomatoes himself. The manager threatens to kill Sejun on the spot if he doesn't complete the request, but Sejun acts like the manager's is no big deal and gives him just 5 tomatoes. He says that he will give the rest later since he needs them to feed the kids too. Behind him, 2 baby rabbits are fighting for a tomato as their father tries to calm them. The tomato vanishes and the tower manager says that it will compromise this time. Sejun thanks him and the message window vanishes. He laughs to himself, realizing that the manager was about to say sorry just now. But then he says out loud that the tower manager was simpler than he thought. It is now the 91st day and the 4th blue moon event happens. Sejun is sitting in a dark corner eating the cherry tomatoes. He'd heard that people with high end could endure the roars of monsters to a certain level. And that is why he was eating the tomatoes, but he still hopes that nothing like the last time happens again. As Sejun wishes for time to pass quickly, his plants begin to gleam in the blue light. Sejun realizes what is going on as the energy of the light enters the tomato and it turns blue. Sejun cannot wait to harvest it, but then he notices that the tomato plants are not the only ones getting blessed. Even the sweet potato leaves were getting illuminated. The desire to check on them overcomes Sejun, and he walks towards his farm. He digs out the sweet potatoes with his bare hands and is amazed at the result. He had a blue sweet potato in his hand. It was filled with the energy of the blue moon, and when consumed, it would increase one's strength by 0.5 points permanently. The system windows tell him that he harvested a sweet potato with the energy of the blue moon, due to which he gained a lot of experience. Oh, the proficiency of the skill harvest has also increased, and now it will be leveled up. Sejun then looks at the blue tomato and harvests it too. As he holds the sweet potato in one hand and the tomato in the other, Sejun thinks that he is holding the world in his hands. But that happiness is soon disturbed by a quest Sejun was expecting. And there were not 1 but 2 quests. Say Giant to offer both the products imbued with the energy of the blue moon to the manager. There was no reward for either of the quests, and the penalty was death. Sejun thinks that the manager was really pushing it with 2 quests at a time. If Sejun refused, it might just kill him this time. But Sejun has a way to solve this issue. He offers 500 tomatoes to the manager, saying that he needs to complete the previous quest first. The manager, quickly accepts the tomatoes and says that he is happy with the cherry tomatoes. But then it asks Sejun why he has not given the energy-filled crops to it already. Sejun apologizes for calling the manager simple earlier. He asks him to let this slide for today and promises to give them it later. The manager sighs and accepts his condition. Sejun then looks at the items in his hands and wonders what he should do with them. And that is not even a question. He tosses the blue tomato in his mouth and shudders. He could feel the summer festival and the fireworks in his mouth again, almost as if it were the first time he ate the tomatoes. The system window tells him that his MP has permanently increased by 0.5 due to eating the tomato. But then Sejun cannot hold on to his hunger and desire any longer. He wraps the sweet potato in onion leaves and throws it into the fire. He thinks it would be even better if he had tin foil with him. But the multi-purpose onion leaves were also good enough. Sejun is happy and says that the time spent waiting for delicious food is the happiest time. The blue moon passes and the rabbits also come out. And they all have questions for Sejun as they see him cooking something. He says that they had great timing. He was just about to call them Sejun. Then excitedly says that he presents to them the sweet potato with the energy of the blue moon, and its delicious smell makes the rabbits drool. Sejun says that it was not much, but they should share it, but the husband rabbit stands in front of his family and stops them from taking up Sejun's offer. They're saddened as he tells them something, and Sejun realizes what the rabbit was saying. He wanted Sejun to eat the sweet potato himself, as there was only one. Sejun is touched and thanks the husband rabbit for being the only one thinking about him. But even as Sejun accepts to eat the sweet potato alone, he is hiding the fact that he has already eaten it secretly before. Sejun peels the sweet potato and takes a bite, but it is too hot, and he burns his tongue and spits out whatever he just bit in the sweet potato in his hand. As Sejun screams about burning his tongue and scalding his palate, the rabbits are watching the sweet potato on the ground. The husband rabbit reaches down to grab a piece of the sweet potato, but his children swipe everything before him. And they eat it as their father watches, but it is too hot for them, and they too spit it out. The baby rabbits start crying, and the husband is dejected that he got nothing, and that the sweet potato got wasted. This is another entry in Si Jin's diary in the tower. He ate a fiery meal today, a little too hot for his liking. A few days later, Si Jin is telling the baby rabbits that they are going to plant sweet potato sprouts from now on. But rabbits are confused, and Si Jin says that it was the thing they were eating right now. Seijin scolds them and says that the baby rabbits are prohibited from eating the sweet potato sprouts for the time being. These words come as a devastating shock to the rabbits. The sweet potato sprouts have been the favorite snacks of the baby rabbits lately, and now they are trying to protest against Seijin's decision. All of them have different reactions to the order, and Seijin says that no matter how they complained, his decision is final. He thinks that there will be nothing left to plant if the babies keep on eating the sprouts. Plus, Seijin tries to convince the rabbits by saying that they will be having even better sweet potatoes for dinner, but if they helped him plant the sweet potato sprouts before that, he would give them a special snack. Seijin had decided to expand the farm area to cultivate sweet potatoes, and for that, he needed the baby rabbits to cooperate with him. And as soon as he tells them about the special snacks, they look at him with drooling mouths and gleaming eyes. Seijin tells them to start working, and the rabbits carry the sprouts to plant them. Their mother is harvesting the green onions, and Seijin asks her to leave one plant. It would then bloom a flower, and Seijin could get seeds from it. As he had reached the conclusion that he needed to plant a seed for something to become an item. After all, he had harvested green onions many times, but there was not a single one that was special. In the newly expanded farm area, the baby rabbits are hard at work. One of them digs holes and the other plants the sprouts in them. But in a corner, one of the babies is too greedy to part with his favorite snack. He cannot control his urge and takes a bite of the leaf. Reacting to that, the father smacks him for doing something like that. Narrator interjection again, but this bring back memories for me. I was just like, this fat, plus size baby rabbit. Seijin is also harvesting the tomatoes, and he gets a lot of messages from the tower system. He had a little bit of experience, but it was the final bit he needed to level up. And now that he had reached a designated level, he had ranked up from an NF rank farmer to an NF rank farmer to an E rank farmer. His job level has increased, and his job characteristics will be strengthened because of this. Sejun is also glad to know that he has reached level 8, and to celebrate that, he decides to make the snacks a bit earlier. He takes the cherry tomatoes and puts them on a skewer. At the same time, he gets a message from the tower manager. The manager was keeping an eye on Sejun and what he was going to cook today. The message disappears soon, and Sejun thinks that this was quite a harmless action. He begins roasting the cherry tomatoes, and then calls the rabbits to start eating. They leave their work and come running to him, and Seijin presents them with special roasted cherry tomatoes on bone skewers. The information window for the roasted tomatoes also opens. The skewer used by Seijun was made from clean piranha bones. And because of the cooking, the tomatoes were softer and sweeter. The rabbits take a skewer each, and they look really excited to eat it. So Jun tells them that it is easy to carry around and eat in this form. But he also warns them that it's, that it was quite hot and they should blow before eating it. But the rabbits are already enjoying it. Then he says that since the sweet potato sprouts were already planted, they should dig some sweet potatoes for dinner. As Seijin digs the sweet potatoes, he finds 5 sweet potatoes in a plant. He reads the information about them, and they are called strength sweet potatoes. It had similar effects to the magical tomato, but with strength. Anyone who ate it would get an additional 0 W1 strength for 10 minutes, and this effect could be stacked up to 10 times in an hour. The other effect was that it would break down 10 grams of fat and help with bowel movements. And this bonus would also apply to those who had not awakened yet. Seijin counts that he now has 15 sweet potatoes, which means he got 5 potatoes for each one he sowed, and that was pretty good for a first harvest. But then Seijin spots a fallen potato sprout. He plants it thinking it would be a waste to leave even a single sprout. But then he gets messages from the system saying that the proficiency of skill sowing is increasing because of this action. Now, Seijin realizes that even this qualifies as sowing, and he also realizes that he must plant all the sprouts himself to increase his skill level. Seijin asks the baby rabbits to stop in a hurry because now he wants to do it. Inside its office, the manager is trying to copy what Seijin just did. It has cherry tomatoes on a skewer, and they are roasted over a fire. The manager eats the tomatoes and immediately spits some of them out since they are burned and bitter. But then it ponders what was wrong with its tomatoes. The humans seem to eat them fondly, And then the sweet taste of the tomato spreads through its mouth, and the manager realizes how delicious they are now. It uses the magic crystal ball to see what Sijin is doing right now. And when the manager finds him eating the sweet potatoes with the rabbits, he gets angry. It screams, saying, how could those punks start eating sweet potatoes without it? That was the great black dragon, alien Fritten. The manager sends a quest to Sijin. Immediately, he demands one roasted sweet potato. There are no rewards for this quest and the punishment for refuting using his death. Sijin is not in a mood to do the quest and tells the manager to postpone it. The manager is shocked and says that he wants the sweet potatoes right now. If Sijin did not give them it, there would be consequences. Sijin says that there was only one sweet potato left. He asked the manager what it could offer in reward. The manager considers it for a while and then revises the quest. A reward is added for another job B-related skill. Sijin thinks that this reward is good enough and offers the sweet potato to the manager. He opens the reward and finds that it is a level 1 seed store. When this skill was activated, Sijin could buy a product at the seed shop every 30 days. Sijin is overjoyed. A seed store meant that he could purchase things inside a tower that were similar to what other Awakened had. He says that this was an amazing reward and the tower manager should have given it to him earlier. Sijin activates the skill and the seed store is opened. Before that, it checks the transaction history of Sijin and finds that there were no previous transactions. But thinking about the transactions, Sijin arrives at an important question. How should he make purchases when he has no money? But then he gets another message that the store will offer entry-level services to the customer, Sijin. He was the first rookie-tier customer at the seed store. And because of that, he would get one tower coin that would be added to his account at the seed store. A tower coin appears in front of Sijin, and he is shocked. He says that the seed store was the kindest and the best. The tower coin was a currency used inside the tower, but in the outside world, the cost of each tower coin was $1.00. Sijin opens the seed store to see what he can buy there. The message window tells him that for rookie tier, he could see 3 random types of seeds. And at his current level, Sijin could only purchase one of them. The 3 types of seeds for this time are shown, and Sijin sees that he can buy 1 seeds of either red pepper, cabbage, or carrots for 0 W1 tower coin each. Sijin thinks about what he should choose. Red pepper and cabbage could be a good combo to make kimchi, but he could not buy them together. Neither did he have the resources to process them here, and then the only thing left was carrots. As soon as he says carrots, the attention of all the rabbits turns to Sijin. Sijin asks them what is wrong, and the rabbits try to tell him that they want carrots. Sijin sees their excited expression and says carrots again, getting the same reaction as before. He is enjoying this a bit too much, and the husband rabbit kicks him in the face for wasting time. Sijin purchases the carrot seeds for $0 W1 tower coin and gets 1 seed store mile. The mileage could be used to raise the level of his seed store, and he needed 100 points to get to the next level. Sijin gets the seeds in a fancy pouch and thinks that the pouch is more expensive than the seeds themselves. But then he sees a message from the manager saying that he is satisfied with Sijin's purchase. Sijin makes a face and asks why it's getting satisfied. This is another entry in his diary now. He got carrot seeds by trading at the seed store. Sijin is excited to plant carrots, and so are the rabbits, but someone else is watching them from a distance. A large and cute bee is watching Sijin and the rabbits celebrate getting carrot seeds, and it seems like the bee also wants in. It's with the husband rabbit and wife rabbit laying on their bellies in front of mounds of soil. They're excitedly chatting about something as their children frolic around behind them, and Sijin watches them from his regular spot too. The rabbits start flirting with each other, and Sijin wonders what has gotten into them recently. Narrator interjection. Well, I can understand the feelings of our Mick. Please pray for me and they might see. I wish I had someone too, but we're getting off topic here. Let's get back to the story. Sijin had planted carrot seeds on a patch of land a few days ago, and even though the seeds had not even sprouted yet, the rabbit couple was acting like this in front of the place where he planted carrot seeds. Jane wonders if they love carrots so much that they spend most of their time daydreaming about them, but he decides to leave them to themselves and take a nap himself. After he wakes up, Sijin plans to pollinate the flowers and cut the green onions. Sijin closes his eye, and baby rabbit also sleeps with him, but then he notices a buzzing sound whizzing past his ear. Sijin tries to swat away whatever is bothering him without losing sleep, but since nothing changes, he gets up. He is frustrated and says, why did a bug suddenly show up now? But when he looks the cause of the buzzing noise, he finds it to be a giant and cute bee. The bee looks at Sijin curiously, and he stammers for a while before saying she was so cute. He thinks this is a monster in the form of a bug. He calls the bee close so that he can read what kind of monster she is, but that happiness at meeting a cute thing vanishes when Sejin finds that it was a poison honeybee. He is scared and flinches as he reads the name, and he turns back to ask the rabbits if they knew whether the bee was dangerous or not. But the rabbit couple is already taking their children back to their burrow. They're scared of the bee too, and Sejin is stunned as he watches them run. He screams at the rabbits, calling them mean. His face twists as he asks them how they could leave him alone like this. The remaining information is given by the tower manager, who tells Sejin that the poison honeybees were carnivores that hunted monsters with their poison stings. The bee stingers were very dangerous, and the manager advised Sejin to stay away from them. Sejin is scared after reading that the bees eat meat. He thinks that they cease to be honeybees at this point, and the bee flies towards him, and Sejin tries to shoo it away without any result. He says that he was just bones and had no meat for her to eat. He asks the bee to spare him, but she is still moving towards him, and Sejin sees her as a fearsome monster. He is fumbling around with his other hand when he finds something he can use to fend off the bee. It is just a broken tomato branch with a flower, and Sejin swings it towards the bee. He asks her to eat it instead of him. The bee curiously looks at the tomato flower, and Sejin is still afraid of her as she moves towards the flower. But when he opens his eyes, he finds that the bee was actually feeding on the flower. Sejin is shocked, but then the bee smiles at him after feeding. Sejin asks the tower manager if he is sure that the bees are carnivores, and there is no reply from the manager. But then Sejin remembers something very basic: bees love nectar. He approaches the honeybee and tells her that if she was hungry, she could feed on other flowers as well. Sejin tells her to eat to her heart's content, and the poison honeybee flies to the flowers happily. Sejin smiles at himself. While he was initially scared, he found something good after all. At this rate, he will not have to artificially pollinate the cherry tomatoes anymore. Then he spots the rabbit family hiding behind his rock. Sejin gives them a scornful glance and says that they ran away because they were worried only about themselves, and he asks them how they still had the nerve to come back. The rabbits try to soothe Sejin's anger by clinging to him and acting cute, and he says that he will not stop being mad at them. But then the poison honeybee returns after feeding. She flies straight towards Sejin, and he takes a few steps back until he is forced to stop by his rock. He asks the bee if she is not full yet, and as she comes close, Sejin is worried about his safety, but the bee lands on his stomach, and after adjusting his t-shirt a bit and stretching, she lays down in her sleeping position. Sejin also realizes that the bee did not mean to harm or scare him. She just wanted to sleep, and he feels that she was too cute even while sleeping, but a small part of his mind is still anxious, and Sejin asks the bee that she isn't going to sting him. And this time, the rabbits have also not run away. Sejin has another chapter to add to his diary about getting lost in the tower. His family and the dungeon gained one more member today. A few weeks have passed since Sejin's first meeting with the bee, and the tomato crops are ready to be harvested again. The wall where Sejin was marking the number of days is also showing 24 characters. Each character meant 5 days, and that means he has been here for 120 days. We see Sejin harvesting tomatoes along with the wife rabbit, while the husband rabbit is watering the carrot seedlings. And the baby rabbits are still playing around. Sejin's getting disturbed by the baby rabbits playing near him, and he scolds them and tells them to go somewhere else. The baby rabbits run away without a care, and then Sejin looks at the rest of their siblings. They were also busy playing with each other, and he felt good seeing them so carefree. He says that they were having a great time, and of course they had to play around when they were still young. And then the poison honeybee also comes to him and sits on his shoulder. Sejin asks her if she has sucked all the nectar for today as she lands. Sejin remembers that several weeks have passed since the poison honeybee came here and became a member of their family. He tells her that it is going to be lunchtime soon, and the bee is also excited about it as she rubs her cheek against Sejin's cheek. Sejin says that the routine of the poison honeybee was fixed. She goes to work in the field in the morning, and that is also when she sucks nectar. And then in the evening, she returned to the forest outside the cave, and thanks to her, Sejin's workload had decreased. Sejin calls the rabbits, saying that it is time to eat, and they all come running towards him. Sejin thinks that the poison honeybee was probably not going back to her group or her hive. Maybe she did not have a hive. As they are eating, Sejin is holding a roasted green onion stem, and the honeybee is sitting on it. She had started spitting honey a few days ago, and right now she was doing the same. The honey spreads over the roasted onion stem, creating another dish called honey onion. The sweet flavor of the freshly roasted green onion was enhanced by the sticky and sweet honey of the poison honeybee, and Sejin is the one who knows the truth about the statement. He takes a bite of the honey onion and exclaims that it is sweet and delicious, And the rabbits also share the sentiment because they are also eating the honey onion. Sijin talks to the honeybee and tells her that he was scared of her at first. He thought that she was poisonous and hence dangerous, but thanks to her, he was able to quickly get honey, and he also expanded his field with her help. As Jin enjoys the honey onion, he says that in a few months, he will eat so much honey that it will match what bears in the wild do. He used to be jealous of bears for eating too much honey, but that would stop happening in a few months. The Tower Master also gives Sijin a message saying that it is happy for him, but he does it where Sijin cannot see it immediately, and as Sijin turns to see the message from the Tower Master, it disappears. A few more days have passed, and Sijin thinks that the blue moon is also going to come soon. He is reading the characters on the stone wall while the baby rabbits are playing and eating. Sijin is worried a bit about the blue moon. Even though nothing bad had happened yet, there were chances that things might go wrong at any time. He hopes that the blue moon goes safely this time as well. It is the 121st day after getting lost, and it is also the day of the blue moon that occurs every 30 days. Sijin is carrying a bag made of onion leaves and full of cherry tomatoes. He puts them inside their usual food hiding place, a rock circle covered with green onion leaves. Sijin is also wearing a jacket made of green onion leaves, and he says this much food will be enough. The poison honeybee had also not come to their farm for a couple days, and Xiaoyan thinks that she was also preparing for the blue moon somewhere, but then he sees the rabbit family. The husband rabbit and wife rabbit were trying to tell their children something, and their children were listening quite attentively. Sijin also notices that the rabbits were especially anxious today, but it is almost time for the blue moon, and Sijin asks them to go home now. But he stops mid-sentence as he sees the rabbit family huddle up. Sijin cannot think of anything that would make them behave so seriously, but the rabbits do not appear worried or scared either. Sijin is about to ask the rabbits if everything is all right when the rabbit couple bolts towards their home, leaving their kids behind. They go inside their house, and Sijin is shocked at what they are doing. But then the rabbit couple turns back and waves at their children. They also say something, but Sijin does not understand it. And with that, they slam their door shut. Sejin is shocked at what he just witnessed. He asked the parent rabbits how they could just leave their babies out in the open during a blue moon. It was dangerous, and they were still kids who could not fend for themselves. But as Sejin says that the blue moon is coming, it arrives. The moon eclipses the sun, and blue light covers the world. And Sejin hears the roar of a monster coming from behind his back, and he goes speechless. He nervously turns back to see what was happening and sees a sight he will never forget. There is even more noise and even louder roars and growls, and they were coming from the baby rabbits, and they looked nothing like their cute selves now. Right now, they were ferocious monsters who seemed to have lost their reason. Sijin silently watches the baby rabbits who have suddenly transformed into something monstrous. They had grown in size, their fur turned white, and their eyes red, and they had sharp claws and fangs. And as the baby rabbits roar, Sijin wonders what in the world is going on here. With this, the chapter ends. I hope you guys like it. I know I was gone for long, but this time I'm back with motivation to reach 1,000 subscribers in 2 weeks, so I will be uploading regularly. Subscribe and share the video, and I will see you guys soon.